Hey guys, what up? So I said this before in my last video, but the beginning of the video I talked about using a transcript. And then I thought, fuck it, it was too much work. So I was gonna use notes. But honestly, I tried that shit and that was also too much work. And plus it didn't really help me anyway, so we're just gonna wing it. So I'm pretty sure you've seen the title. I got it from somebody that commented in one of my videos asking, well, how is my mother and my sister? So I thought in this video I would do a little story time and explain. So it starts off with my mother. She had a mother and a father, and this is the 80s, where 80s was just, back then, anytime back then, actually, it was just kind of crazy. People was just doing whatever the fuck they wanted and getting away with it. So when she was 8, her father, who, is a sick man, a sick pedophile actually, decided that he was gonna start molesting her. So at 8 years old, he started molesting her. And by the age of 10, he started raping her. And the reason why he was able to get away with a lot of this stuff is because he had made sure to keep him and his family very isolated. She's not the only born child. He has 9 kids with his wife. And by 10 years old, he started raping her in secret. And just throughout the years, he continued to rape her. By 15, she was pregnant. She got pregnant with me. I'm her firstborn. And at first, he was in denial about it. Like, he called her a liar, all this other stuff. And he was just like, no, there's no way. But, he has his own little connections. He was very charismatic and a narcissist and had a big ego. So, but he did know somebody in the medical field that was able to confirm that she was pregnant with me. And by then he kind of accepted it for what it was, but then he also was able to make excuses on why it was okay that he was doing what he was doing to her, even though she was suffering. And obviously, even though he had a wife. And then for 10 plus years after that, he continued to rape her and she continued to have his kids. Now, the really fucked up part is that after I was born, people have this idea that if you're born from incest, that means you're going to have birth defects or you're going to come out deformed or whatever. And he had the same idea. And I didn't come out deformed. I actually, I was born and I was a beautiful baby. And he obsessed over that idea that he was able to make another excuse, which was that, well, if my first baby with my own child is just so perfect, then I must be meant to do this. God, said to me in a dream that when the world ends, we're going to be the only ones left, and it'll be my job to continue the human race. Anyway. So that only pushed, it became then his agenda to rape her and make her pregnant. So, and that continued, and she had 5 kids. Well, no, she got pregnant 5 times. She had 4 kids. Now, for people I'm pretty sure wondering, how do you go from a child into adulthood, just allowing that to go on, being raped, didn't you run away, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is that from when she was a little girl, she had never been to school. So he on top of being a narcissist and egotistical, he was also very smart and strategic. And so he decided that, well, in order for me to, in a sense, mold her mind, for her to, not stop my agenda of my abuse on her, then I'm going to make sure she doesn't even understand the position she's in. So he, completely separated her from any of her family members. He moved far away. She had never been to school. He never allowed her to go to school, which means any education she had was homeschooling. He didn't believe in doctors or hospitals. Like, she's never gotten a checkup. She's never been to the hospital. And on top of that, even with when we were born, he birthed us. So we were completely, like, he kept everybody in a bubble. And it was so extreme that he, like, controlled what everybody ate. He put people on diets. He even controlled what they watched. So nobody would think for themselves, and she wouldn't confuse. Because, of course, to convince this child that this is okay and this is something she should be doing, he told her these things, like, this is what all parents do with their children, and this is how you heal from this. Like, even, like, she grew up with asthma. He would actually tell her that in order to heal her asthma, he had to have sex with her. And yeah, that was just really crazy. And so she couldn't even watch regular TV. Like, anything involving just the depiction of a family or children, like, living out normal lives, she wasn't allowed to watch. She could only watch shows that dealt with fantasy or sci-fi. So, like, her favorite show was Star Trek. Because it was just so far removed from life, there was no way for her to truly make a connection. Like, oh, but, is this normal? Is what I'm going through? Is this really what all people go through? And so he brainwashed her from 8 years old. And she just grew up that way. Like, she was completely isolated. She couldn't have any outside friends. I mean, she technically didn't know the outside world. We couldn't even travel unless it was with him and for whatever reason that he had. And the thing is that he also had power. So he was the director and producer of the Fugees music video Killing Me Softly. And so she watched him interact with, celebrities or powerful people. And of course, he's so charismatic and likable. And so it only solidified her idea of him being, this all-powerful being, and her realizing that she was just stuck here. No matter how much she suffered, no matter how much she hated her life and what she was going through on a day-to-day, like, she had to accept it as normal. And so that was just something that, that was just her life. She just lived through that. But, skip to her having other kids. She was able to escape. That is how I am here today. Yeah, she was able to escape, and that's kind of it. I mean, he was just a really sick fuck. Like, a really, really sick fuck. And, for anybody wondering, he is serving 90 years in jail. But yeah, that's the story. That's how my mother is also my sister, and my father is also my grandfather. And, even though I did live a very different life from other people, it's remotely normal now, especially since she did escape. We all escaped, I guess. But yeah, that's my story time. So I know that was kind of dark, especially I'm pretty sure a lot of people are like, the fuck? Like, what? But, you know, my mother, she's an advocate for, you know, child abuse and stuff like that. So it's something that we talk about a lot and, you know, try and help other people just suffering through the same similar situations. But yeah, so it's kind of easy for me to kind of retell the story. I've told it to many people, but yeah, that's my story time. I hope it was informational or educational for you. Um, but yeah, that's it. Like, comment, or subscribe, or, you know, don't. And, you know, definitely I'm asking you to comment. I love to know what other people think or feel, if you have your own story. And also, you know, ask me more questions. Even if it's not, you know, anything crazy like this, like anything too deep or anything, you know, I still want my channel to be some sort of lightheartedness. So it doesn't exactly have to be about my life. If you have advice, anything, yeah. Or if you just want a different perspective, you have just a random question, want a different perspective from me, I'd love to give it. But yeah, I'll see y'all in the next video.